Listen, a podcast where encouragement, empowerment, and enlightenment occur on a weekly basis through reflections, stories, and discussions. I am Dale Kingsley, licensed marriage and family therapist. Welcome. Welcome to Here to Listen, Episode 2, Anxiety and the Management of. My guest today is Dawn Van Cedarfield, who happens to also be a cousin of mine. And Dawn's going to help me talk about anxiety when it takes center stage, how mindfulness comes into play and can push it away. Anxiety, what is anxiety? Anxiety is something that's innate. It's built into us. It's part of our natural defense mechanism. It motivates us to prepare against threats of danger so that we can survive, because that's what we're supposed to do as humans, is survive. It helps us stay safe. But there's a range of anxiety. There's worry all the way up to panic. There's appropriate anxiety, which is a call to action. And there's inappropriate anxiety, which is unrealistic. It gives you imaginary threats of danger, prompts us to run away or to lose control. So we need to manage that. And that's through something called anxiety management. And all that is an awareness of anxiety's existence, noticing it for what it is, embracing it actually instead of running away from it. And the way to do that is through mindfulness. So mindfulness is the key to anxiety management, to be present, to become an observer, to detach emotionally and observe objectively, to notice what's real and what isn't. And if you decide that it's not threatening or dangerous, which is our defense mechanism that's built into us, if it's not threatening or dangerous, then it's inappropriate anxiety. So first is to recognize anxiety, to be mindful. So Dawn, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about part of Haji is your business. What is Haji?
A Haji, in the loose American definition, is one who wanders, one who is on a journey and traveling. This life is a journey for all of us, and that's why I named my business Heart of a Haji. I have the heart of one who wanders.
As you've been on your journey,
yes,
has there been moments of anxiety?
Yes.
Where you felt threatened?
Threatened or extreme worry, where I start to get the negative, anxious feelings of how I'm going to be perceived, how I will be received. It starts feeding into a negative reflection on myself. Mm-hmm. So I have to learn how to navigate through those thoughts. So how I am perceived and how I am going to be received often escalates my worry into a state of anxiety, which is the shortness of breath, the jumpiness, not the full exhale that one has to take. It led me to meditation.
To combat anxiety? That's why it led you to meditation?
Combat it or navigate through it.
Right, to navigate through it.
Yeah.
That's right. Because it's going to come, it's life.
Whether or not you want it to, it's a part of it. It's there.
That's right. You started to mention anxiety's physical symptoms.
Yes.
Because there's physical symptoms and there's psychological symptoms. So physical is the muscle tension that you talked about.
Yes. You get very tense, the muscle tension. Again, the short, jumpy breaths, which is usually the short inhales with very little to no exhale, as you're almost retaining your breath.
Right. Very shallow breathing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the reason why our body does that is because it's muscle tension. It's trying to store up energy for action, because we have built within us the defense mechanism of fight, flight, or freeze. Used to be just fight and flight, but then somebody came up with freeze as well, where you just don't do anything. But the fight or flight of the muscles tensing up, your blood flowing rapidly fast to certain areas of your body, because it doesn't know if you're going to choose to fight or to flee, to run from it. So it's got to go to those major muscle groups, which are the legs and the arms, the abdomen. To get that to happen, the heart has to work a lot harder. Mm-hmm. And it also kind of limits your body, just knows we need to prepare right now for something. We don't know when it's going to come, but we better be ready. And because of that, it limits the amount of blood flow that go to like your fingers and your toes. And, that's how come we have the tingles, in fingers and toes.
And that's probably why your rational thought goes to the back burner as well.
Yeah, right. Because it's cutting off.
Your brain is so focused on going to those muscles.
Yes. Exactly. It's strictly doing priority right then. It doesn't have time to think of anything other than that. So shallow breathing, gasping for breath, your heart races. It's all doing this because it's trying to protect you. Your body is doing what it's designed to do. Again, it doesn't know what the danger is. It just knows that your mind has said that there is danger. So your body is responding. So then you get the body sweats, And you get those when you start to cool down because all of that overexertion that's happening heats you up. So then when you go to cool down, that's when the body sweats come. So your large muscles get fueled first, right? When you're doing meditation, how do you pay attention?
Well, there are two different types of meditation that can be used to navigate through anxiety. And the first, most basic one that is taught is balanced breathing to navigate through the short breaths. And what the balanced breathing is, you want your exhales to be equivalent to your inhales. So to begin, because you can't go from 160 miles an hour down to zero, you have to do it in little baby steps. The first thing that you would have to do is equate your breaths. Count the inhale, 1, 2, 3, exhale, 1, 2, 3. And we start with 3 just to get a rhythmic pattern in your breath. Once you have discovered and completed that rhythmic breath, we then extend the exhales and the inhales equivalent to a count of 8. So you inhale slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale down to 8. And you continue to do that in a rhythmic pattern. And what this does is it focuses your mind on your breathing rather than the thoughts. So that's balanced breathing. There's also different steps to take to get into that meditation mindset, feeling and recognizing, focusing on the breath and the inhales and the exhales. And that's the basic gist of balanced breathing. And then the second one is mindful meditation. Mindful meditation for anxiety is, as you were stating, with the physical symptoms of how your body feels. Usually there is an emotion that is felt in your body that is associated with that anxiety. With every emotion, there is a sensation in your body. So you have to focus your attention on the sensation and the emotion and your breathing. And that's called mindful meditation for anxiety.
So that's all different layers, like how you said.
Many different layers,
Right.
yes. There's a certain stance, a meditation posture that you have to reach. You have to connect your mind with your breath. Basic gist of the two to go with anxiety, the counting, the balanced breathing, and the mindful meditation.
Our nervous system, when you're talking about breathing and thoughts, behavior, our nervous system, there's two parts that are activated. One is sympathetic and one is parasympathetic. It's like a light switch. You can't have both on at the same time. One's on, one shuts off. The sympathetic turns on our fight, flight, or freeze response in both the mind and the body. And that's just when a perceived threat. Again, you don't know whether or not it's a realistic threat. It's just a perceived threat or danger. And when the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, our breathing becomes very alert and aware, which turns into shallow breathing. For instance, if we're sitting in this room and all of a sudden we hear a car braking system, we hear the screeching of the brakes, the tires and everything, and we don't know, we can't see where it's coming from. We just heard a big noise and we're expecting to hear a crash or somebody beep or the car just go away and nobody gets harmed. So as soon as we hear that sound, which we didn't expect to hear, we're just sitting in a room, we immediately activate the sympathetic nervous system. Immediately we breathe in and listen. And right there is hyper alert, hyper aware, hypersensitive, staying very aware of our surroundings, thinking of what might come next, a crash, hearing somebody beep, somebody yell at somebody, listening for what we think might come next. Because we don't know. We have to assess the situation in order to know whether we're going to fight, flight, freeze. Right? Our body, if we stay in that, is in a constant search for danger. And people with PTSD are in a constant search for danger. So if you're in a constant search for danger and your body's responding in such a way with its, like how we talked about your blood flow and everything, it does make your lack of focus go down. And it does make your racing thoughts increase. So now you're worried about everything. Are there people in the car? Is everybody okay? Parasympathetic turns off all of that, turns off the fight, flight, or freeze, and it increases a state of calm. It restores our normal body function to both our mind and our body. And therefore our breath becomes long and focused.
More rhythmic.
More rhythmic, which results in relaxation. Since that's not automatically happens, sometimes you have to kick it into drive.
Correct.
Which is by mindfulness.
Yes.
Right? Which is what you were just talking about.
Yes.
So I have clients that ask me when they're in the midst of feeling very anxious, panicky, how do they wrap their mind to try to become objective and try to think, okay, I got to concentrate on my breathing. I have to, how do they switch gears?
Well, it's not so easy to just switch gears, even though you know the steps to take. We liken it to gathering your tools before you prepare the job. Okay. So when you're not in an anxious state would be the best time to start practicing what to do should one occur.
Okay.
So if you know you do have moments of anxiety, the best thing to do is when you are in a calm state, start practicing the balanced breathing, start practicing the mindful meditation. And that way, when you do need that tool, it will be readily available to you.
Right. You're familiar with it. That makes me think of people that are anxious because they have to go to, say, have an appointment tomorrow in a building that I've never been to or a place that I've never been to. I'll probably do a dry run before I go there so that I'm not so anxious if there's a lot of traffic. At least I'm somewhat familiar. With what to do. And that'll alleviate not all the anxiety, because anxiety is good. I tell clients to pick 2 symptoms to try to shut off. So if their heart is beating really fast and their breathing is shallow and, they keep wringing their hands, well, you can't really change your heartbeat until you change your breathing. So if you choose breathing as one of the symptoms that you're going to change, and you choose to sit on your hands so that you don't wring them, you know, that is a start to an end. You know what I mean?
Right. In meditation, you change your mind, you change your body. If you can calm your mind, your body will follow.
In therapy, almost every therapist practices something called CBT, and that means cognitive behavioral therapy. Your thoughts dictate your behavior. How I explain it to a lot of clients is if we're sitting in my room, which has no windows, I know that they're fearful of dogs, and I say to them, go outside my door and there's a big dog out there. They will, eventually they got to walk out of my office, but they'll walk to the door very timidly. They'll listen before they open up the door handle. They'll do everything because they're in a fight or flight, hyperactive state. If I say to them, there's a brand new car out there, free and clear yours, gas for a year, something that they really, really want. Here's the keys to it. All you got to do is go out there. They will jump off of that couch, run out the door, and because whatever their thought is controlled the behavior.
Yes.
Now, neither of those could be true. No dog could be outside, no car could be outside. But they won't know that till they actually go see what reality is.
Yes.
But until then, their body is controlled by their mindset.
Yes.
Right?
So funny story that you're saying, using the story of afraid of dogs. Well, as soon as you said that, I have a black snake that lives in my garden. And no, I have a death, fear, anxiety of snakes. So I try to use this balanced breathing and this mindful meditation on myself. And I still have anxiety when I go outside and I know that snake is waiting for me. So it's a test. And again, that's why I don't like to use the words control or cure. We can only navigate. We can only do as best as we can, given the situation. I meditate every day. And when it comes to that snake, I've bartered with him. I've begged him. I've tried to do as much as I can. And it's getting easier, but it's still there. So I still have anxiety over my snake, and my husband refuses to kill any living thing. So I have to deal with my snake and my anxiety.
So pick 2 symptoms.
My breathing. I do try and control my breathing, and my physical body. The way I try and control my physical body is I stomp on the ground, knowing that they feel the vibrations, thinking it's a bigger animal, and therefore will run from me.
Your neighbors must just love watching you go outside. I know. That's funny. But that's good. So you're controlling what you can.
Yes, I'm controlling what I can, and I'm navigating through my anxiety. Yes.
That's right.
And someday I will be able to do that, hopefully.
When that snake has babies.
Yeah, thanks. I'm moving. The for sale sign goes out.
Just kidding. So another way to manage anxiety, you talked about the breathing, quick relaxation method type thing. Music therapy. So music therapy, talk about that a little bit, about the 4 beats.
The 4 beats, yes. As the balanced breathing, we usually say go up to 3 and then eventually go up to 8. So your main goal is to get a full 8 count breath in and exhale for a full count of 8, where the musical beats are usually a 4-beat count. Double a 4-beat count, it equals 8. So it is all have to do with rhythm. Our bodies have a natural rhythm. We just have to find that.
So that 4-beat count doubled, or just the 4-beat count, is the rhythm of a relaxed heartbeat.
A nice, natural, relaxed breath. Yes.
Breath. Okay. All right. And then there's something called, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but delta tones and binary beats. Do you do anything with those?
No.
Okay. So I have clients often, I have them go on YouTube and just Google delta tones or Google binary beats or Google delta tones and binary beats and do it together. And it's just something about the sound in there resonates with our brain waves and just allows our brain waves to relax. So I tell people, like, just because they put on delta tones and or binary beats and they're trying to study, that doesn't mean that they're going to fall asleep. It just means that their brain waves are going to be relaxed enough to absorb more of what it is that they're studying or reading or whatever. If they're using delta tones or binary beats to go to sleep, they're probably in a posture of, conducive to sleep, laying down or whatever. And just by listening to it, it's going to automatically relax the rest of their body.
Oh, that's awesome. I have to look into that.
And I have had such great results with that. I've never had anybody say it didn't work. I've never had anybody say it didn't work. And so delta tones, binary beats on YouTube or, wherever else you can get them. I just know it's on YouTube. There's something called progressive muscle relaxation.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we touch upon that a little bit also in the mindful meditation for anxiety, and it's tensing. If it's the same thing I'm thinking of, it's tensing the muscles and counting, and then a complete relaxation. And again, it's just rhythmic, tense. You can do it whole body. You can do a small body scan and tense your fists and relax. Tense your forearms and relax. You can just go body part by body part.
So before, when you were talking about every thought carries with it an emotion, and then the emotion
has a sensation in your physical body.
Right. So if you have a sensation in your stomach, can you focus that?
That breathing down into your stomach. You actually don't want to force the breathing into it. You want to force the breathing through it.
What's the difference?
You're in a meditative posture. You're sitting. You're relaxed. There is a posture that is conducive to meditation, the straight spine, the relaxed shoulders. And again, that's all a process to get there. And once you're there, and then you start these types of meditation.
I find it interesting that the postures are conducive to.
Oh, yes.
That's interesting.
And before you meditate, it's not like you can just sit here and, okay, now we're going to meditate. You have to first sit down. Your hips have to be higher than your knees. Your spine has to be straight. Your shoulders are over your hips. The crown of your head is lifted. It's just almost like as if a lightning rod was coming through you. It makes it easier for it to travel through you, your energy to travel through.
Okay.
And again, that's why you want to focus your breath through that portion or that body part that's feeling the sensation. As an example, you had given if your stomach is tense and your stomach is tight. When you are in your meditative posture and you want to inhale, when you exhale, you're visualizing it. You're not literally exhaling down through your stomach, but you are exhaling through the nose. You're feeling the warm air on the rims of your nostrils, but you are sending that breath visually, consciously down your chest, down into your stomach, down through your stomach. So your stomach relaxes. When you inhale, again, it comes in and through. And it's more or less you're melting that part of your body that is tense, that is tight. So that's why you want to go through. If you focus the breath and you just stop there at the stomach, it's not releasing any stress.
So it's a constant manipulation.
Massaging, if you will.
Of that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense, because when I've tried to meditate, I just say, okay, just go to a quiet place. But I don't think of like positioning myself in a particular manner But that totally makes sense because, if we want to go to sleep, we assume
Lay down.
a posture that's conducive to that.
Mhm.
If you want to, sing from your belly, you don't sit down and do it. You stand up and do it. Put your hands on it. So that totally makes sense. Thoughts that give rise to anxiety. You had talked about external things. What do people think of me if I do this? Or I talked about hearing a car screeching outside. That gives rise to anxiety. But some things that are triggers are unconscious thoughts. People will honestly say, I don't know why all of a sudden I started to get very worried. I went up to Maine with somebody a few years back, and we were walking on this train trestle that was hundreds of feet above water. So we're walking on this, and that's fine. I don't have any issue with height or anything like that. But we were walking on the train trestle tracks, and as we were getting towards the middle, I started getting really scared, for lack of a better word. It was definitely nervousness. It was fear. It wasn't because I felt like I was going to fall off. I could definitely see, you start realizing how far apart those boards are on the train trestle and what you see below you. But it wasn't that. I knew the fear was coming from something else. I couldn't pinpoint it, but I really knew it was from something else. And it scared me so much that I would not continue crossing. I felt that there was extreme danger if I went any further.
So you don't think, honestly, that it was just fear that overcame you? Do you really think it was anxiety?
I believe it was a spiritual thing, actually, because when we turned around,
do know where it came from.
Well, I think at the time I didn't. I'm like, why am I feeling like this? Because I'd never been to Maine, to this part of Maine before. So it wasn't like I had any history with the area. So as soon as I said to the person, we need to turn around, I'm just like almost freezing. Like, I can't move any further because I'm just
not
fearful.
Breathing, not moving.
Yeah, fearful, very fearful. And I need to just turn around. As soon as I turned around, I didn't even take one step. I felt better. That I was going to listen to myself and take control of the situation.
So taking your control was combating it in itself.
Yep. So when we got back home, I asked people from that area if anybody had ever committed suicide off of that bridge, because I really think it was a spiritual thing I was feeling.
Something told you not to go one more step.
And sure enough, there had been. And so that was truly an unconscious. That came out of nowhere. Right. Came out of nowhere. What about you?
No, just the snake, I think.
What about, there's another thing. So there's unconscious thoughts, which are based in beliefs that then result in action. I had a belief, I turned around, I felt better. Right?
There's also the cognitive distortions that we had briefly mentioned, the I statements. I'll never be good enough. Why would they give me this promotion? Where you work yourself into an anxious state with the negative I statements. A lot of those aren't real. And that's another thing to remember about anxiety too, is that they are perceived threats. They're not always real threats. And I'm not going to say they're not real threats. There are real threats. There is a real reason to have anxiety, but sometimes they're only perceived threats. And that's why it's so important for us to know that we have control over them, because sometimes we can talk ourselves out of it.
Change our mindset.
Yes.
Yeah. And therefore change your behavior.
Yes.
So there's unconscious fortune telling, like predicting the future.
Yes.
Anxiety is about the future. Depression is about the past. Anxiety is about the future. That's why mindfulness is about the present. So that's how you deal with it.
Yep.
That's how you deal with it. Irrational thoughts, not seeing reality as reality, but believing your thoughts are truth. You don't look at the evidence. You don't take an objective position. You just let your thoughts run away.
I was just going to say that, yes. Your thoughts just spin out of control.
Yep.
Yes.
It's interesting because I remember when I was much younger, I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I grew up in a farmhouse. So there was a big farmhouse sink, very deep and wide. And my parents had gone across the street to a neighbor's, and I was there with my 3 older sisters. If I was 7, the oldest was 8 years older than that. And there was a slow drip, and I mean a slow drip, in the kitchen sink, which is a farmhouse sink, which is big and deep. I thought for sure we were all going to drown. I remember it like it was yesterday. I thought for sure we were all going to drown. Now, I lived in a house that was 3 stories. We could have been in the attic. We weren't to drown. And it was going down the drain anyway. Nothing was backing up. But to me and my 7-year-old brain, we were in danger. And mom and dad, who can get us out of danger, I could have walked out the front door too. Didn't think of that. Mom and dad, who were across the street trying to have a good time, I'm demanding that they get called.
Oh.
And I mean, that had to be a lot because I didn't want to disturb my father at all. So for me to demand that and for my sisters to actually do it, I must have really been acting the fool. But so mom and dad ended up coming home. And, I don't know if he fixed the leak. I don't even know what happened to the leak right then.
It was just better because you took control of the situation by getting your dad home, and he was the savior just by being home. Maybe he didn't even fix the sink.
Right. So it was like my irrational thought. I wasn't seeing reality as reality. Now, and it's funny that memory came to me about a year ago in session. I was talking to a client about something, and all of a sudden that memory came up. And I thought, it's so funny when you look at it 51 years later. When you look at that, it's like, oh my gosh, like nothing was going to happen. Why was I such a wreck about it?
Can I mention the snake story one more time?
Sure.
And then I promise.
No, you can.
That is my anxiety, that it will be the death of me. And I know where it sprang from because, as you said, knowing where it comes from is half the battle because then you can do something about it. The not knowing only feeds it.
Yeah.
When it was just me and my 2 sisters growing up, and my dad we lived in the woods. We lived way out in the woods, had lots of wildlife all around us all the time. When we were little, there was plenty of snakes in the yard, and my father used to take his boot heel and smash the back of the snake's head until he severed it with his boot heel. And then he would pick the snake up from the tail and swing it around at us kids to scare us. That's where my anxiety stems from. And I know this, and this is why I'm trying to maneuver my way through it. Now, if I were just to go out there and think that I had anxiety over snakes, not knowing that I was quote unquote tortured as a child with this, I wouldn't know how to go about correcting it. But knowing where your anxiety stems from, you can then begin the process of navigating through it.
Right. There's catastrophic thinking. That's thinking that something will always go wrong.
Yes.
Always go wrong. You won't be able to handle it when it does. It's bound to go wrong.
Yep. Always negative, always, as you said, catastrophic. Intrusive negative thoughts is another one.
People that feel that they need to control in order to feel safe, control everyone and everything.
Over control, yes.
Yeah, totally over control.
Yes.
Yep, micromanage and stuff. Going back to the cognitive behavioral, like you said, if you can identify from where it comes, that's your cognitive, that's your thought, then you can change your behavior regarding it.
Change your mind.
Yep, change your mind. There is a intervention you can do. It's called art therapy. I'll have to talk to you about it.
Oh, yes.
Where whether or not you know where the fear comes from, it stands for accelerated resolution therapy, and it's to resolve something quickly. You're not hypnotized or anything. It's just a normal hour session, hardly any talking in it. So you don't have to tell anybody about the snake or whatever it is that your trauma is. The therapist will talk to you and get you through it. People can look it up on TED Talks and on YouTube. It's called Accelerated Resolution Therapy. And the whole tagline to it is lose the pain, not the memory.
Oh.
So you'd still remember your father doing that, but your psychological and physical reaction to that memory won't be the same.
I have to look that up.
You'll notice it within the first 15 minutes of the session.
Great.
Yep, it's pretty cool. Conscious thought is anxiety management, to have conscious thought about something, not to let your thoughts run away, but for you to grab them, step out of the emotion, look at it
Be an
from
observer.
an observational stance and choosing. We have choice. Choose what you want to believe. They call that selective abstraction, to ignore evidence that doesn't fit our preconceived notions about reality and emphasize evidence that supports our preconceived notions about reality. So for instance, if I felt that somebody was cheating on me, if they were supposed to be home at 5, they came home at 5:02, where were they? Right?
Oh, okay.
Immediately it's like, this is my belief, so that is going to support it.
Right.
Not that there's traffic.
Right.
Not that, they dropped their keys and had to go back in and get them. If they have to go make a call and have to, go outside to do it or whatever, that immediately would
So
make me
it's
think.
deciphering between what is real and what you perceive to be real.
Right. So you choose what reality you want to see. Do I want to see that this person is cheating on me? Then I'm going to take anything that occurs
And make it fit that
make
narrative.
it fit that narrative. Yep. So, if a client comes in and thinks that there was a teenager that thought I was upset with them. So when the client came in, because I'm not making eye contact with them because I'm trying to find my pen and I got to grab this and they're perceiving that as I'm purposely dismissing them, but I'm not. I'm trying to find my pen and, so when they asked me about it, like, are you mad at me? Then I totally looked at them and, talked to them. No, I'm not. What would make you think that? And then we got through that and then their anxiety went away because that wasn't reality,
Right.
So we can choose our thoughts, what to accept and therefore what to work with and therefore what to ignore. So whether you choose the negative, the positive, the realistic, the unrealistic, it doesn't matter. Your body is going to respond to what your brain is thinking.
Yes.
They did a study with people having new sheet music, like, music that had never been performed before. New sheet music, everybody knew how to play guitar. They divided everybody into 2 groups. For 30 days, one group had a guitar, played that sheet music. The other group did not have a guitar, but like air guitared that sheet music.
Okay.
The body does not know that the air guitar is not holding an actual guitar. The body does not need to hear the notes being played because the person knows how to read music. And so they're doing in their mind, they're doing it.
Right.
So it's kind of like typing. If you know how to type, I could sit here and on this pad
And type out a letter.
Right.
Right.
Because I don't need the actual typewriter. My brain knows where the keys are and everything. So I'm telling my body that the typewriter's there. So after 30 days, they brought everybody back together again and they had them perform the sheet music. This time everybody had guitars, real guitars. And the people that did air guitar performed it just as well as the people that had the guitar.
Amazing.
Yep. So that shows you that your brain does not know what reality is. You tell it. That's why we can look at like 3D things or, you know what I mean? We look at them and
optical illusions, things like that. It's what you tell your brain is real.
Yep.
Yes.
That's all it is. Like you look on Facebook, it's, do you see green and white or purple and white?
Yes. Yes.
It's whatever you tell your brain. And then you find evidence to support it. Think of it this way, like stressful situations are opportunities to strengthen your ability to navigate your anxiety, right?
Yes.
It allows you opportunities to obtain and to maintain coping skills, which then empower you. They give you power. You have to remember, you can only control you. You can only control you, your actions, and your responses to this world. Everybody is going to have anxiety. It's part of our defense mechanism. But you can pick and choose what you're going to give a lot of time and attention to, and what you're not going to give a lot of time and attention to. So again, you're responsible for your own quality of life. What are you going to do about it? I thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed myself.
You teach yoga on Thursdays and Saturdays?
Yes, I do.
And where would somebody participate? What's the cost?
It is $10 per class. I take cash or Venmo. And right now, Thursdays and Saturdays at 11 a.m., it is a 1-hour class. I'm at the Lisbon Meadows Park in Lisbon, Connecticut. It's right off of South Burnham Highway. I believe it's Route 169.
Okay. And how would somebody get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me on my Facebook page, Heart of a Haji, Haji.
Good. And then they can just tell you that you're interested. And if they have any further questions for you, they can.
Yes, please. If you have any questions, please ask.
All right. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And I just want to end with the serenity prayer because really that's what we've been talking about this whole time. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things which I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you for joining Here to Listen. I'm Dale Kingsley, licensed marriage and family therapist. Until we meet again, you matter, you are loved, and you can make a difference.